Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another live post-game reaction by your boy Tiger Paul Craven and Jordan Bowman. And again, we get to talk about another Clemson loss. Clemson moves to 4-4 on the 2023 college football season. We fall 24-17 to the North Carolina State Wolfpack in North Carolina. And boy, was it quite the game to watch. Was it quite a frustrating game? Absolutely. We're going to get into all of it here. But before we do that, and before I bring on Jordan, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. I see we got 50 people in here right now. So if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Me and Jordan do a live post-game reaction to every single Clemson game, win or lose. We're right here talking about Clemson football immediately following every game. And we also do a weekly show called the All In Show right here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel on Thursdays at 7 p.m. So I hope you come join us for that as well. But without further ado, let me bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. Jordan, how you doing? How you doing on this fine Saturday of college football that we are currently in?
Honestly, surprisingly okay. If I'm being honest, like it just at this point, you're kind of like, well, we've got more. I mean, we kind of knew last week that more of these were coming. I know we both predicted a Clemson win, but confidence wasn't super high. And this was just exactly the kind of result that we can expect from this team.
That's
And
it.
I mean, there's not really much else to say. I mean, they're the same issues that we've talked about ad nauseum every single week of this season has continued to persist. Whether it be Cade, whether it be the offensive line, play calling, game management. Like we can go through it, the coaching, we can go through it all. But at the end of the day, we're kind of becoming a broken record at this point. So it's like, I mean, what else? Like, what else is there really to comment on? We know already it's not a good football team, and bad. I mean, Clemson does what bad football teams do, and you got outplayed, and and I know that I'm interested to hear from the crowd that kept going on about how we've won the time of possession and the yardage battle and all the statistical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As a point of positives for this team. I don't know how you can through 8 games now of pretty much saying that same thing over and over again. It's like at this point it's like, no, this team isn't unlucky, this team is just bad. And we talked about it, and that's just what this team is. They've shown you who they are, and I think a lot of the fan base has kind of woken up and kind of just understood that this is what this team is. But some are stood, and I think especially after today, I think the majority of the fan base is probably on the same page. But I'd like to hear from the people that were kind of late to the party, because it just I don't know. There's not really a defense for anything in this game, whether it be Dabo, whether it be Cade, Garrett Riley, the position coaches. I mean, even at times the defense. What do you say? It's not a good football team, and they don't know how to win. And NC State did their best to try to let you get back into it, and they were trying to offer that game on a silver platter. Couldn't take advantage, because that's what bad football teams do.
Absolutely.
It's hard to get riled up about this one, really.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and we kind of talked about it backstage before we went live today, and I mentioned that it's just like you don't even to your point that you were just talking about, you don't even have to open up the box score for Clemson football at this point of the season to know that Clemson probably won or probably posted better numbers in every major statistical category that there is in a football game. We've done it all season, yet this team continues to find ways to lose, and that's what bad football teams do. They find ways to lose close games. That's what this Clemson team has been in 2023, and I have no reason to believe that they will change at any point in time this season. We're now into week 9 of the college football season. They're not changing. They're not turning a corner. There is no epiphany that this team is going to have. There is no, corner turning type of game that's going to come for this Clemson Tigers team. They are who they are. They're a bad football team that turns the ball over in the worst situations. They're an inconsistent offense that cannot get out of their own way. They can't put drive after drive together. When faced with a long field, you just assume that at some point they're going to make a mistake. Yeah, they have a drive here or there where they put together, a pretty good drive, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's what this offense could be. But that's not who they are. They are the offense that goes consistently 3 and out, consistently punts the ball, consistently turns it over in their own side of the field, in their own territory, and puts their defense in terrible situations. And again, today you saw it happen. You had that turnover by Cade Klubnik early, that interception on the second drive of the game in Clemson territory, and NC State, again, like a lot of teams that have played Clemson this year, has went down and capitalized on it. They put 7 points on the board, and then suddenly you're down 7-0. And then we come out, we punt, score a touchdown, and a few more punts in the first half. And then, you open up the second half with a pick six down in your own territory again. It's the turnovers for this team. They're not fluky anymore. Although watching in a vacuum a single Clemson game, somebody who hasn't watched Clemson football all season, they would look at this game and they'd be like, man, that's crazy, man. Those turnovers are insane, man. They come out of nowhere. But if you've watched this Clemson team all season and you know who they are, that's par for the course for this team. It's just there's nothing left to say. And again, like you said, we're like a broken record on this channel. I think some apathy has started to set in with a lot of the fan base.
Yeah.
The fans were right. As much as Dabo Swinney wanted to come at us and say that we were fair weather fans and that, we weren't, we were just being hypercritical of this team. No, we're not. It's on the field. It's proven every single Saturday. It's proven exactly what we're saying. Our running game is seriously lacking. It's inconsistent. Our passing game is not much better. It's just a bad football team. We're just not a good football team in 2023. And it's unfortunate because we're a really talented football team. We got a lot of good players on the team, but we're not good. We're just not good. And we proved it again today against an NC State team who, congratulations to them. They were obviously the better team today. They beat Clemson 24-17, but they're not a good football team either. But unfortunately, Clemson's just worse. And we consistently find very creative ways to lose football games. And that's just the mark of a bad football team. So I don't know what else to say about it. It is what it is at this point. The apathy is set in on the fan base, and here we are. And to be honest, we're in danger of not even making a bowl game.
Yep.
I mean, think about that. Let's go back. Like I said, I think I did this week in our breakdown of the NC State game. I kind of took us and the Clemson fans back to fall camp and some of the talk that was coming out of fall camp. All the national talk from the Clemson players that is super unlike any other Clemson team. If you've been following the team for any significant time, especially under Dabo Swinney, players never really talked about that. But they talked about it this season. And now here we are, 8 games into the season, 9 weeks into the season, and we're 4-4. We're a 500 football team. And if we're being honest, we have at least 2 more losses ahead of us in the 2023 season, if I'm just being honest. And we're seriously in danger of missing out on a bowl game. And I don't know how far you got to go back for Clemson not to make a bowl game.
I think it was 2004, I think, and that was after the Clemson was technically bowl eligible, but that was the year that was Lou Holtz's last game. The big brawl against South Carolina, and both teams punished themselves by not going to a bowl game. That was the last time, and then, but the last time Clemson didn't win 6 games was obviously 98.
So let that sink in, Clemson fans. There's a lot wrong with this program. There's a lot wrong with this football team. And you can't point to any one position or group or coach on the roster or on the staff or on the roster to explain it away. This is not a team that is a position coach away. This is not a team that is a quarterback away. This is a team that has a lot of problems. It's not one single thing for this Clemson team. There's a lot of issues. And like I've stated in previous episodes, we're a program in a free fall right now. And where the bottom is at this point, I really do not know. But it's lower than I thought it was a couple weeks ago. I could tell you that. It continues to get lower seemingly every week that we trot out on the field. So,
yeah, I'm with you. Do you have any thoughts about the game itself? I mean, it's really hard to even dive into it because it's like, well, I could point to basically like we could talk about pretty much anything. Uh, I guess we'll start with we got to have a conversation about K Klubnik.
yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Not really sure what Clemson does from here, but it's K Klubnik is not progressing at all. And in fact, he's in game in certain ways he's regressed, and there just seems to be no the highs are not high enough, and there's just way too much bad thrown in between.
Yeah.
He was flat out not good today, flat out bad, just from reads, from throws. He was not very accurate. That that throw that he just completely airmailed over Jake Brenningstool over the middle, like it wasn't really any pressure in his face. He just didn't step into the throw.
And that's a 6'6" target, by the way.
Yeah,
that's extremely hard to overthrow.
Right.
I could probably overthrow Jake Brenningstool. No, I'd probably throw it in the dirt, honestly, because I'm not a very good quarterback. I never have been a quarterback. So, that's kind of the attack that people will come when you start criticizing. Well, you think you could do better? No, I don't. But I'm also not a D1 athlete or on scholarship to play quarterback. And at the end of the day, I know a lot of people will make excuses and be like, oh, the offensive line. And while that's true, yes. Oh, wide receivers aren't open. Wide receivers are open. If you're not watching just the football on plays and you're looking at the overarching developing play, we talked about this backstage before we came on. There's wide receivers running open. I told you I saw Troy Stellato streaking across the middle multiple times in this game, 4 or 5 times, wide open, and Cade never saw him because he was either rolling out or not looking downfield or staring down his safety valve and Phil Maffa or something like that. It's just
throwing the ball when he shouldn't, throwing the ball away when he shouldn't throw the ball away, checking it down when he shouldn't be checking it down, escaping the pocket when he shouldn't be, calling the wrong protections. They're just completely. I mean, well, I'll say the fumble was his one fumble that we recovered was on the offensive line, but
that was on the
interceptions
tackle.
weren't good. He just completely missed. They're just there's not really any sort of progression. We're not seeing it at all, and not really sure what the answer is, because as much as people when the starting quarterback doesn't play well, as much as people are always going to be like, well, let's look at the backup, and I don't know. At this point, I'm not going to say that benching Cade is the wrong thing to do, because truly, I really don't know at this point, because I just don't have much confidence that Hunter Helms is going to be much better.
Yeah, I don't like. Here's the thing:
or Paul Tyson, for that matter, or Chris. I really don't think I don't think the answers to Clemson's offensive woes are on the roster right now, and I think you're seeing why the decision not to get to just kind of forego getting a 2024 quarterback it's not looking very good. I think this offseason you got to go get somebody.
Yeah,
I don't think you can afford to just have a gap and just not take you got to go in the portal. You got to take somebody.
Unless Chris Vezina is just sitting back there waiting, and he's just progressing in practice and we don't know about it, and he's going to be some world beater. I agree. You got to go get somebody. Cade does not look like how you would have thought he would have progressed this season. Yes, I fully expected Cade to come into this season. We talked about it on a lot of the earlier episodes, about, hey, a lot of Clemson fans were quick to be like, oh, you missed DJ yet? Or other fan bases coming in here, you missed DJ yet? You missed DJ yet? No, I don't miss DJ. No, because I don't think DJ would be doing any better in this offense than Cade's doing right now. So miss me with the miss DJ stuff. No, I don't miss DJ. I saw plenty of DJ in this offense, and it wasn't good. Okay, so suddenly to pretend like just because he's having some semblance of success at Oregon State that he would suddenly be so much better than Cade is crazy to me. It's crazy that people actually bring that up. And I wish DJ the best. I'm glad that he's having some success over there. But do I miss him as a Clemson quarterback? No.
Yeah, and I just and I don't think DJ does not fix all the issues. Maybe in some ways, maybe he doesn't make as many, just completely like what are you doing type mistakes. But DJ doesn't fix this offensive line. DJ doesn't fix they're just DJ doesn't fix the run game not being consistent, which.
Yeah.
You watch DJ at Oregon State. He has a very good offensive line. He has a very good run game. They run play action. They let him throw the ball down the field, and they make plays because that offense is tailored to his skill sets. I don't think the Garrett Riley offense would fit what DJ does well, and so I think he made the best decision for himself, and now he's thriving at Oregon State. But I don't think if Clemson had held on to him that all of our problems would be fixed. It just
absolutely
wouldn't. There is more to. Cade has a share of the pie and the blame for why this offense hasn't been successful, but it's far from the only problem. I mean, we talked about in the offseason about the how much questions we had about this coaching staff and all of that, and then we come into the season and there are even more problems than we expected. The offensive line, we thought it might be a strength this year. It's not. They're not good, and you can see they're kind of scrambling for answers at this point. They inserted Tristan Lay at right guard, with Mitchell Mays and Harris Sewell behind him because they have no answers at that position because it's been so bad all year, and there's really no clear fix. And so I don't know. There's just so much about this offense that is broken, fundamentally broken. That a different quarterback doesn't really make enough of a dent to where I said, man, if we had DJ, maybe we win this game.
It's not that simple.
I don't think it's that simple. But
it's not that simple. And Cade shares a big portion of the blame this season. I don't think that he has progressed as a quarterback like we thought he would have. And, to your point, in some ways he's regressed. We talked about it this season about him staring down wide receivers, only making one read on a lot of plays, not looking, not scanning the field, not going through any semblance of a progression, getting locked on one target. And when that's not there, he kind of hits the check down immediately instead of scanning the field for other options. He's done that this season. He's still not fully comfortable in the pocket. He doesn't make the greatest decisions on when to throw the ball away, when not to throw it away, when to take off, when to kind of sit in there and hang in there a little bit longer. A lot of times he's making poor decisions when it comes to those things. So, a lot of the blame to go around is on Cade Klubnik, but he's not the only problem on this team. The offensive line, when you're playing musical chairs on the offensive line in freaking week 9 of a football season, you have major problems. You have major problems. When you're plugging in somebody who's never played guard for you, ever, at a week 9 game, a conference game, you got problems on the offensive line, barring injury, and it's not because of injury, it's because of the poor play by the two right guards that were, behind Walker Parks. So, this team's got a lot of problems. Wide receiver not being absolved from problems either. You saw Bo Collins with a huge drop today, right in the middle of the field. That would have been a first down.
One of the good balls that Cade actually put
right in his hands. It almost hit him in the face if his hands wouldn't have deflected it and it went to the side of his face like that. So, the wide receiver group is not absolved from responsibility either. And basically, what I feel like me and you are both trying to say is there's no simple fix to this offense or to this team as a whole. There are so many problems. And we're just talking on the field right now. You can go to the coaching staff. I question some of the coaching staff's ability, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. And if you look at their history and their experience, you may look at them and be like, hey, are you really ready for this job that you've been given? I think that's a fair question. And I'm not here calling for anybody's job in particular, but I'm saying that there's going to have to be, some questions, some tough questions asked come this offseason on whether this coaching staff is currently constructed is a winning coaching staff. Because right now, I would say 100% it's not. There's going to need to be changes because players are not being developed. Guys that have been in the program for 2-3 years are not seemingly getting any better, which is a problem. So unless you're literally busting on all of these position groups, then it has to be a development issue. Well, whose job is it to develop players? It's coaches' job to develop players. Yeah, it's on the players to come to practice with the right work ethic and the right mindset and to put in the hard work and to, stay after and do extra work. But ultimately, it's up to the coaching staff to develop players. And that's a huge problem, I think, for this Clemson team right now. I think we have a bunch of really talented players that are being underdeveloped at a lot of different positions right now. So, again, there's no simple fix for this team. The losses are not over this season. I did not expect Clemson to lose to NC State. I didn't expect it to be a pretty game by any means. I didn't expect it to be an easy win, but I thought Clemson would come out with the win. And they didn't. And again, it goes back to this team is just finding more and more creative ways every single week to lose games. And that's just kind of where we are in 2023. And it's unfortunate to watch.
Yep. And that's the long and short of it. It's just not a good football team. A lot of things are fundamentally broken about this football team. And that's where we are. I mean, there's really and that's kind of my thing. It's like they're, I'm reading, when you look in the chat and you see people, talking about this particular part of the program and that part of the program is like, and what things need to happen now. And there's no fix for this team right now. It has to be at this point, you got to just take your losses. This season is a wash. And you have to do some serious self-scouting, and make the changes that you need to make because, whether it be on the coaching staff, whether it be roster wise, whether it be, quarterback, whatever you have to do, you have to do it. And, that's an off-season thing. And that's why it's so tiring coming on here every week and just regurgitating the same stuff over and over and over again, because like at this point, it's like we all see it. And, but there's not really anything that can be done at this point. That's kind of where I am. But who knows? Maybe at this point, it doesn't hurt to try new, different stuff, but I don't think it's going to, make much of a difference. So, yeah. I guess defense, we kind of went all in talking about the offense, but defense, they think they played well enough to win. You give up 200 yards of offense. You should win the game. Really only one of, the offense was, gave up 7 points directly, and then another 7 points giving NC State good field position.
Yep.
So, outside of two really bad busted plays, defense played fine. And they were kind of in a weird position because of some of the injuries on the defensive line and stuff like that. But we can talk about the big play to Concepcion. I obviously did not like putting Toriano Pride out there on an island.
Yeah, man,
It's one of those you'd like to have back. He's not one of your better tacklers, and you putting him on a guy that's as dynamic as Kevin Concepcion is just I don't know.
I think Yeah, that was definitely a poor decision schematically by the defense, I think, because he was literally on an island out there. And NC State did a really smart thing. They put a guy in motion. They got Clemson's defense off balance on that play, and they knew exactly where they were going with the ball. That was the whole point of that motion. They wanted Toriano Prod to be man up against Concepcion, and Toriano Pride was guarding against getting beat deep, and he did a little in route, caught a quick ball, and then he made a miss, and it was unfortunate. And then he was off to the races after that because there was no safety help over the top. There was nothing. If Toriano Pride didn't get him on the ground, he was going to score, and he did. And it's unfortunate. I think our defense has played really well this season, and I think they played pretty well in this game. I mean, holding an offense to 200 total yards. I mean, you can't really ask for much more in Division I major college football. And I know North Carolina State doesn't have any kind of world-beating offense at all. They've struggled a lot in this season. There's a reason that they're on to their second quarterback of the season, and Brennan Armstrong was benched and all that. They've had plenty of their own woes on offense. I'm sure they can relate to the Clemson offense a ton as far as their fan base. But, at the end of the day, we gave up two huge explosive plays to a really dynamic and explosive wide receiver. And that was kind of the story of the defense. Although they played really well, those two back-breaking and explosive plays by Concepcion was really a big difference in this game. And then you look at, basically the offense spotting NC State 14 points. It's just not winning football. Again, they continue to put this defense in terrible situations. And at a certain point, you can't really blame the defense. I think we said it. I feel like we say it every single week. The defense played well enough to put Clemson in a position to win the game again. And we can't get the job done on offense. At a certain point, you got to come alongside your defense and give them just a little bit of help. I mean, you spotted them 7 points for sure. And then the turnover, the other interception in your own territory that, you can say the defense should have kept them out of the end zone. And while that's true, again, you keep putting them in bad situations, and they're only human, They're looking at the same thing on the field that all the fans are looking at, and they're like, this offense can't do anything. Like, regardless of whether we stop NC State or not, we're probably going to lose this game because the offense can't perform. So, I mean, and I know it's different when you're on the team and on the field and you're in-game playing. You don't look at it quite like the fans look at it. But, at the end of the day, no one has confidence in this offense. And I'm sure the team feels that as well. So I think some of that, tends to bleed over, unfortunately, in a game and in a season that has gone on this long with this many mistakes. I think we've given up 64 points now off of turnovers this season.
Yep.
64 points.
That's
you're lucky
over a touchdown points a game.
You're lucky. You're lucky you're at 500 at this point. Giving up that many points off of turnovers at this point in the season. I mean, and believe me, we're not done giving up points off of turnovers. I can guarantee you that. There's no way. Just judging by how this team has played, we're not done with that. So hopefully we can get a little healthier. We're really thin on the defensive line right now. Not so much the tackle position, but our end positions, man, we're super thin, man. It reared its ugly head against Miami. It continued this week against North Carolina State. We just don't got the guys to run out there. And you can't play the same two guys every single snap. They're just going to get worn out. They're not going to be able to set the edge like they need to. You got to have dudes that can rotate in, and we just don't have people that the defense can trust right now at end to really rotate in and keep those guys fresh. And I think that attributes to, some of the problems that we've had and the lack of pressure the past couple weeks that we've had. Because we started seeing Clemson's defense, right? We got pressure early in the season, but we weren't getting home. And then we started continuing the pressure and getting home. And now the past couple weeks against Miami and North Carolina State, not nearly getting enough pressure at all, especially against some more inexperienced quarterbacks. I think if you can get consistent pressure, against, the two quarterbacks that we have lost back-to-back games to, I think it's a different game. But the health of the defensive line and the end position in specific, or in particular, has hindered our ability to really come after those quarterbacks. And you can see it on the field. These young guys are getting a little too comfortable back there, and they're able to sit back there and make plays because of the lack of pressure.
Yep. All right. Let's did we address the super chats?
I don't think we did.
Let's go ahead and do that. Drew, thank you so much for the $2. He said Dabo had a good run, 2 to 3 seasons left as a head coach. I'm not gonna jump on that bandwagon yet. But
no, I'm not there yet.
I understand why fans might feel that way. I just, they're if the changes that I hope are made in the offseason aren't made, then that's probably a good timeline for about how long. I don't think Clemson will ever fire him, but I do think so. It'll get to a point where he just chooses to move on because he can't win the way that he wants to win, and that's going to be what it is, I guess. But thank you for the $2, Drew, and then $5 from JT. Thanks. He says, "Love my Tigers, but they're a bad football team this year." Pretty simple. Yep.
That's the long and short of it, JT.
That's the long and short of it. I mean,
you hit the nail on the head right there. I couldn't say it any better myself. They're just a bad football team this year, and it ain't going to change. It's not going to change. So this season is what it is, and you got to go out there and you got to play for pride, and you got to maybe start trying some stuff and growing up some young dudes next season, and kind of just figuring out what you're going to do, figuring out what works for the personnel that you have, because let's face it, Clemson's not going to have like this overhaul of personnel. So you got to start figuring some stuff out. But, thank you for the $5 super chat. You're awesome, man. But they're a bad football team. A bad football team indeed.
Didn't even really address special teams, but that wasn't very good today either. Aiden Swanson had a 25-yard punt.
Jesus.
After we gave him praise last week.
I've been giving him props lately too, man. How dare he?
I mean, that was about it. That was really bad. It was really bad.
That was a bad
and it didn't end up costing you because the defense did get a stop. But, you're trying to flip field position, and, that you just can't have that. And then obviously Jonathan White misses that field goal before the half, nearly missed the chip shot to give Clemson 17.
I mean, look, the field goal kicking situation is what it is. It ain't good at this point. We barely made that 19-yarder to push it to 17 points, towards the end of the game in the fourth quarter. Which begs the question: why are we throwing the ball in that situation at 3rd and 1 or 3rd and goal, whatever? Why
I don't know.
You got Phil Maffa, but you're going to hit some corner route to Adam Randall or whatever in the corner of the end zone. I don't know what you're doing there, man. Like, I hate that play call. I hate that play call at the goal line. I think it's a terrible play call.
Well, and the problem is at the end of the day, Cade has to run the play that's called, and
I know
that he just did not put it. That was not a good ball. He underthrew it.
I know it wasn't.
That could have been a touchdown.
It could have been.
He just
especially if we would have put it up higher. Adam Randall clearly had the leverage over top of that DB. The ball was just put way too out in front and way too low, and the DB didn't really defend it particularly well. It just happened to be
right spot.
It happened to be a bad enough throw that it basically hit him in the back of the helmet, essentially. And Adam Randall couldn't come over and scoop it up like he tried. But again, I I don't like that play call. Like, I just, Cade Klubnik has struggled so much in this game. You've seen it, and you're going to put all your eggs in that basket instead of, Phil Maffa carrying it into the end zone from the 1 yard line. I
After
don't
he
know.
just had a huge run and he had already scored
Yeah, he's the
a
one
short
that
yardage
literally
touchdown.
got you down there. He had like a 41-yard run to get you down there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get a single carry in the red zone with goal to go. Like, I don't understand it. That's part of what I was talking to you about before we jumped on. Is like we seem to throw the ball when we shouldn't throw the ball and run the ball when we shouldn't run the ball. Like, I don't understand what we're doing some of the times. And I'm not saying I could come up with a better game plan or call a better play than Garrett Riley or anything like that, because that's what people like to do when you criticize particular play calls. No, I'm not an offensive coordinator. No, I'm not an X's and O's guy. No, I can't draw up any plays better than Garrett Riley. But I think it was a poor play call. I'm sorry. I think you put the ball in your hands of your 6'1", 235-pound tailback, and just, if we get it, we get it. If not, then we don't get it. But I like running him more than I like throwing a fade to the corner of the end zone. I just think it's a better play call. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
with that being said, I guess we can talk any positives from the offensive side of the ball. I thought Jake had another nice game, 8 catches, 93 yards. I mean, that's one thing I was happy about, because we talked about it in the during our Thursday show. It was like, it seems like, the past few years, every time a player has a breakout game, the following game they do nothing to get them involved. And at least you saw Jake Brenningstool making some catches and had a decent outing. I thought Adam Randall made some nice catches.
He did.
That was the most we've probably seen from him all season, just from a consistency standpoint. That's.
I think Troy Stellato played, pretty well. We finally got to see him back in the rotation a little bit more consistently in this game. I think he made some good plays. I think he's a guy that plays really hard. I talked about how he was open a few more times. Had Cade Klubnik been looking at him, he would have probably had a lot more yards. And I know I talked about Bo Collins dropping that big third down pass in the game that could have sustained a drive and possibly changed the outcome of the game. But he had a pretty good game as well. I mean, he had, that.
Well, I won't say a pretty good game, but he made a nice catch in the down the sideline. One of that big.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. That was a pretty good catch, man. That took a lot of concentration. So it's nice to see him start to put a couple of those catches together. I know Bo Collins is still, pretty inconsistent when it comes to catching the ball, obviously, but he is starting to put some of those more difficult, kind of 50-50 balls together and start catching them. He had one against Miami. He had one again today against NC State. So it's nice to see him start putting those together in back-to-back weeks. It's still inconsistent, but at least you can see some growth there from him. And you saw him on the sideline. He was irritated at himself about dropping that wide open pass across the middle. It's just it's a lack of concentration. It's trying to run before you secure the ball in. It's worried about people creeping up and hitting you in the back. It's all of those things. So, there was some bright spots on the offensive side of the ball. I think Phil Maffa had a really good day. I wish they would have ran him more, honestly. To be completely honest, but I think he had a really good day. I think they threw the ball way too much today. I don't think Cade should have had 50 passes today.
No.
I just think he should have ran Maffa just a little bit more. He was having some success running the ball. We were still struggling and very inconsistent in the running game. But at the end of the day, you would think, just hammering a guy, and Phil Maffa, 6'1", 235 pounds, whatever he is, over and over again. Eventually, you would think, he'd start to break through later in the game. But again, he had 16 carries for 84 yards. So, and that big 41-yard run he had at the end of the game to kind of set up that field goal to make it 17-24. So I think he had a pretty good day. Glad to see him get a few more carries, albeit probably just because Will Shipley was out. It was nice to see him finally get his fair share of carries in a game. And hopefully that signaled to this coaching staff that, hey, maybe Phil Moffitt should touch the ball a little bit more. He's a pretty good running back. I don't know if you know this or not. He's pretty good.
Speaking of Will Shipley, obviously we're still waiting to see what the results are. But he took that was a really nasty hit.
That was a brutal hit, man.
Yeah.
I hope he's okay. On replay, it was worse than it was live in the game. I mean, you really saw he got hit kind of at the base of his helmet. That was a brutal hit.
And the way he was laid out afterward, I for a split second I was thinking the worst. So I'm happy he was able to get up and get up on his own power. But obviously that's you have to take those types of hits very seriously, and they're obviously going to do some extensive looks just to see that everything is okay back there, because you don't want to play with neck injuries and spine head. That's
100% the right move for Clemson to take him out for the rest of the game, regardless. Just because of the sheer, just brutality of that hit. I don't think, it wasn't a dirty play or a dirty hit.
Yeah, it wasn't malicious.
It wasn't malicious. It wasn't done on purpose. It was just an unfortunate, roll of the ball, basically. Those hits just tend to happen when you're going down, the defender's coming down, and it just happened to hit him in the right place. And I do think he was probably unconscious for, a short amount of time on the field, just judging by he was not moving.
Yeah, he was not moving.
There for about 30 seconds on the field, which was super scary to see. But, hopefully it's just a concussion. Although concussions are very serious, hopefully it's no lasting effects or anything like that. And, hopefully he can come back, at some point in time this season, even if it's not next week, because, he is a really important part of this offense.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised they didn't, as we said, the hit wasn't malicious, but I was kind of surprised they didn't review it for targeting.
I definitely thought they would, especially seeing it on replay. I was like, that might be.
That looks like forcible contact to the head or neck area to me. But
what are you going to do? I thought the same thing, especially when I saw it in replay. I was like, ooh, they might review that for targeting, but they didn't. They moved right on with the next play, and it was kind of that was what it was. Who knows? Who knows what happened there? But it definitely looked like if you took the letter of the law targeting how it's written, that would have probably qualified for it. Although I wouldn't have liked to see that guy get kicked out of the game for that hit, because I don't think he did it on purpose, and I don't think it was malicious, which is why I think they should change the rule. A bang play like that, he wasn't head hunting for Will Shipley. He was trying to keep him out of the end zone and make a good tackle. So, I'm also glad that dude didn't get kicked out of the game, although I do think it was targeting.
Yeah. Beyond that, Clemson didn't have a boatload of penalties, but the penalties they did have were pretty backbreaking.
Crucial, man. Crucial penalties.
The Xavier Thomas, offensive face mask on third down, that was not great. The false start on that Bo Collins slant where there was nothing but green grass ahead of him.
Man, dude.
You can't have that. I mean, it's like this team already struggles to create opportunities for themselves.
Yeah.
And the ones you do get, you have to, like, those kind of procedural stuff, like a wide receiver, and I believe it was Choice, a lot of that false start. Like, a wide receiver should never, ever false start.
I know, right?
Like there's no it's not like the offensive line where you don't have your eyes on the ball unless you're the center. You don't have even the center, you don't have your eyes on the ball. But if you're on the offensive line, you can't see the ball. You have to go and you have to time the cadence, and you have to just have an understanding of when you're about to go. If you're a receiver, all you have to do is watch the ball. But as soon as the ball moves, you move. Like there's no like you don't have to know the count or anything like that. The ball moves, you move, and
Absolutely.
that was just that was a brutal point to have a false start penalty like that. Just can't have it because Bo had a step, he had a lot of space. NC State looked to be in a it looked to be a zero blitz. By the way, there was no safety help, down the field. So they had a lot of guys up at the line of scrimmage. Like you just can't have that. And that's, when you're a team that's struggling to create opportunities, those are backbreaking, and those can be the difference in whether or not you score points on that drive. And that was, I feel like that was probably one of those plays where that was the difference between when, you scoring on that drive and not. So, this team just like we've said, throughout the show, this team just finds a way to shoot themselves in the foot, and cost them games that, on paper they should have no problem winning. And so that's where we are. And
this is now two
that's the mark
games
of a poorly coached football team and a bad football team.
Absolutely. And this is now 2 games in a row where Clemson should have gotten wins, and they didn't, because they didn't deserve to win the games. They did all the things that you can't do wrong. And it continues to just be who this team is. So, there's really not much more to say about that. Reminder for the people in the chat right now, thank you guys so much for getting in, hitting up our chat section. I know you guys are having all kind of crazy conversations in there, and we appreciate that. We got 141 people in the live chat right now, which is a lot for us, okay? Might not be a lot for a lot of channels, but it's a lot for us, and we appreciate every single one of you getting in here. Please hit that like button for us. We are trying to grow this channel. Also, a reminder of the almost 150 people are in here right now. Me and Jordan do a weekly show right here on this channel, the Voice of College Football Clemson channel, every Thursday, 7 p.m., talking about Clemson football and everything about the week ahead. So please join us for that. We thank all of you guys for showing up. Another Clemson loss. Clemson losses are good for our chat section, Jordan, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously, if you go to the channel and sort all the lives by most popular, pretty much all of them
they're all losses
are after Clemson L's.
They're all losses, man.
Hey, I mean, I guess in a way that still speaks to the brand a little bit. I mean, people like to see the teams that have been at the top lose, and this year Clemson is doing a lot of losing. So, but hey, it's always a bright side.
Absolutely, that's the bright for us, I guess, if we have to look at one. Shout out to Miami and Virginia; they're currently in overtime.
Yeah, hey, I gotta give Tony Elliott credit. I mean, it just the last 2 weeks. He's had his team ready to play against.
He's rallying the guys. As bad as they started off, man. At least they're rallying. Clearly, the locker room has not given up on Tony Elliott, regardless of people's opinion about him. So, I wish him the best. Good thing we don't have to play him. We probably lose to him.
Yeah, you're probably the way they're playing right now and the way Clemson's playing. Yeah, that's if Clemson were to play Virginia, that'd be a very losable game.
It'd probably blow us out by 3 touchdowns.
Honestly, both Virginia schools have started out terrible and are pulling it together. I mean, Virginia Tech absolutely boat raced Syracuse, which I mean, I guess what does that say about Clemson's win over Syracuse?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do, man?
Yeah. I mean, all you can do is laugh at this point because it's just been pretty – it's been pretty wild how comically, just inept at this team can be at times. You're just like, well, I've never seen a team do stuff like this. Like this
it's just like when the turnovers happen, you're no longer surprised anymore.
Yep.
Like we've just been so conditioned this season. Like, and it wasn't even a turnover. That whiff by the left tackle where Kay got hit in the back and fumbled the ball, and Phil Maffa ran and recovered it. Right. Like I watched that play and I was just like, "Yep, that completely makes sense." Like that's yeah. Like I definitely saw that coming at some point in time this game. It's just like you're not surprised about it anymore. Um, Nothing really, as far as turnovers, can surprise a Clemson fan in 23. I don't think. So, you just gotta drive on. You got to keep rooting for your team. You got to hope that they get better. You got to hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel. You have to hope that Dabo Sweeney is going to right the ship and make the right decisions and the tough decisions that are probably going to come this offseason. Because it is clear you can no longer say you're 3 plays away from being undefeated and blah blah blah. This many 10-win seasons in a row and this many bowl appearances in a row and this many ACC championships and this many back-to-back playoff appearances. You can't tout those things anymore. Nobody wants to hear it. No one cares. No one cares. We are 3 years removed from any of that stuff. And like we said before, like we're making history for all the wrong reasons right now. This is the first time we've lost back-to-back games since 2011. We are going to end our 12-year 10-win season streak this season. We're not winning 10 games. It's impossible. We ended a bunch of streaks at the end of last season. Our home winning streak, our winning streak against South Carolina. The list goes on and on. You're making history for all the wrong reasons right now. There's clearly something wrong with this Clemson program. And what do Clemson fans have to do at this point? Well, in my opinion, we got to keep rooting for our team. We got to keep showing up, showing out for the team, hoping that they play well. Not necessarily expecting them to play well, but hoping that they play well. And then you got to look to the head man in charge in Dabo Sweeney. And you got to look at him and be like, hey, man, what's up, Dabo? What's it going to be? You get paid a whole lot of money to figure it out. So it's time to figure it out.
All right. 100%. I don't even really have much to add. It is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
I will say this. I know there's a lot of Clemson fans that are, concerned about, and we talked about it in the on the Thursday show. Like, I think there's a lot of Clemson fans that are, concerned about recruiting and the class and all of that. I guess that's the one positive. I don't really see, at least for this 24 class. I don't see any, the results on the field affecting that class or anything like that. So, you have that to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Because I do think there's some really good players in the recruiting class that Clemson has coming in next year. But, they're going to be true freshmen. And if you are going into that season expecting all of them to make an impact and fix everything, that's not realistic. And obviously there are ways, to mitigate a lack of experience on your roster at certain positions. A lot of teams have done it. I'm sure you guys can kind of gather what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But your head coach doesn't really want to. It doesn't seem all that interested in engaging in it, but we'll see.
We shall see. But all that, we got plenty of time to talk about that in the offseason. Right now, it's all about the games that Clemson has left on their schedule. And let's be honest, Jordan, it don't get any easier from here. We got Notre Dame coming to town next week in the Valley. It's going to be a tough game, man. I'll save my predictions for our weekly show. I won't get too far into it, But the
Yeah.
schedule doesn't get any easier. We got Notre Dame, then we got Georgia Tech, then we got North Carolina, and then South Carolina to round out the season. We need 2 more wins just to make a bowl game, and it's going to be tough to get those 2 wins. If we're being honest, it's going to be tough. So
going to be tough.
Here's to hoping for the best.
You mentioned you mentioned Notre Dame. It's like it's poetic that they are about to drop 60 points on Pitt.
Jesus. Oh, Lord help us. Lord help us. Y'all show up next week to our post-game live, please.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
All 160 of you or whatever that was in here before. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game next week. We better circle the wagons and backs against the wall time, playing for the pride of the university, pride of the team, pride of yourself as an individual and a college football player. Really, there's nothing else to play for at this point. You just got to play for the dude to your right and left. That's going to be the coach's job. They're going to have to galvanize this team. Like I said, coming into the North Carolina State game, the coaching staff's got their work cut out for them. It's not going to be easy to keep this team focused. It's not going to be, especially some of these, seniors and people that have NFL aspirations and high draft picks on the line. It's going to be tough to keep guys focused. As much as we don't like to talk about it as college football fans, it's that's a part of the game that we currently live in. Again, that's on the coaching staff to do, and we got to show up as fans and keep rooting for our team and hope for the best. That's all we can really do at this point. We've kind of beat a dead horse today, and talk about all the issues that this Clemson team has had this season, and that they'll probably continue to have. There's no real quick fix answers. They're not going to go into game prep this week for Notre Dame and suddenly figure a whole bunch of stuff out. We just gotta keep grinding, man. Hoping players get better, hope players develop, and hopefully we can catch a break or 2 somewhere down the road. I don't know. Maybe I think if we just stop turning the ball over, it might be a little bit better. But that doesn't seem to be in this. That doesn't seem to be in this this version of Clemson's wheelhouse at this point this season. I don't know if we will see a game in 2023 where we don't turn the ball over.
Yeah. How many do we have at this point? I mean, we've given up 64 points off of turnovers. How many total?
I think we got 14 turnovers at this point.
Sounds about right. I know that Cade has about 12 of them himself.
Yeah.
Between interceptions and fumbles.
Yeah, it's not good. It is not good.
Or 11. I don't know. I have to look it up.
I don't know what he has.
I'm looking forward to looking up. So
no.
Just a pretty comically just a wash of a season at this point. So
yeah, we got 14 turnovers on the season.
And unfortunately your defense couldn't make up for it. In some other games where Clemson had turned the ball over, they were able to create one of their own. But
Cade has 9 turnovers, 4 fumbles, 5 interceptions.
Okay.
He's got 9 of the 14 for the Tigers. So
not great.
There you go. Not great. Not great. Not great at all. 14 turnovers. You've given up 64 points off of those turnovers. If Clemson could just clean up that part of their game alone, at least we wouldn't be playing from a just deficit all the time. You certainly can't. You certainly cannot do that against Notre Dame. You're gonna get blown out. You're gonna get embarrassed in your home stadium. You'll get embarrassed in Death Valley if you turn the ball over and spot Notre Dame 14 points. Believe me, Notre Dame doesn't need us to spot them any points.
No,
they don't need any points given to them by the Tigers. They are more than capable of scoring their own points. Believe me. And our defense will be tested next week against Notre Dame. So y'all stay tuned. We'll get into all of that in our weekly breakdown this Thursday at 7 p.m. So stay tuned for that. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a great show.
Here's to it.
Yeah, here's to it. But I think we've covered all we really want to cover as far as the game. I don't think we need to keep rehashing it, Jordan. Let's turn it over to the comment section for the next 5 or 10 minutes. If they got any questions for us, if you guys got any comments you would like us to respond to, we'll open it up to you guys for the last 5 or 10 minutes of the show. And then me and Jordan will get out of here, go watch some more college football, and try to forget about this product and this game that we just watched from Clemson today. So turn it over to the chat.
I hate losing to Dave Doran, man.
Me too, man.
That's probably
like of all the coaches to lose to, I freaking hate that dude, man.
Yeah.
He's so obnoxious. But
it is what it is. At this point.
I mean,
Let's see.
When you punt 4 times in the first half and only have 7 drives, what do you expect? What do you expect?
What coordinators need to go and which ones do we keep? Well, we only have 2 coordinators. Well, I guess
I don't think offense or defensive coordinators are going anywhere.
No.
Honestly, don't.
I assume he meant position coaches.
Coaches, I think that's up for debate.
Yeah.
Offensive line, wide receiver,
I mean, we can talk about it. I'm not going to call for anybody's jobs, but
no.
Right. But there is there will be some staff change. Well, there should be some staff changes. I think. I think there
will be.
If the head coach is truly serious about winning, there needs to be more. There needs to be more than just okay. We'll get a new offensive coordinator and keep everybody else, and everything will be fine. There's
going to have to be some accountability come the end of the season for not only the Clemson players but the Clemson coaching staff. And if Dabo is who he says he is, and he is serious about winning, and he's serious about riding the ship, then he'll make the tough decisions.
Yeah.
If not, then I think it'll be clear heading into next season where we stand. So.
Yep. Presto, he says, it's one thing to have all these turnovers, but this has to be some kind of record for points off turnovers. I'd have to go back and I wouldn't surprise me, especially through 8 games. Yeah, this might be a record for it. Might be a Clemson record at least.
Again, making history for all the wrong reasons this season.
It would not surprise me. A Big Mick says he needs to start with the quarterback. He gave him 8 games time to give someone else a shot. Cade can fight for the job again in the spring. I won't say you're wrong to feel that way, but I don't know what I don't know what changes. To be honest, I'm kind of tired of blaming the quarterback for everything. I think there's a lot of things wrong. So I don't know, but a lot needs to change, and everybody's like, from what I've seen in the chat, it's like somebody will point to one issue and be like, "But what about this issue?" And it's like those 2 things can't be true at the same time. Like, oh, the offensive line sucks. Oh, but Cade is making bad decisions. You're absolutely right. They are both happening and feeding into each other. Like that's. 2 things can be true. 2, 3, 4, 5 things can be true at the same time. Coaching staff is not adequate. I think that's pretty evident. I mean, I'm not in that. I'm not in the program every day, but I mean, the product on the field says that this group is not well coached. So, it's a lot of things that feed into one another, and it's hard to say what the number one problem is because they all are equally important and there's a lot of overlap. So Gotta fix it all.
Too many problems to name one.
Yeah. SC Mike, Gamecock fan, and he says, do you think the overall decline the last few years has more to do with assistants leaving or a lack of generational players like a Watson or Lawrence? Clemson was a lot better before, in the years before Deshaun Watson, at least the 3 years before Deshaun Watson than this team was. So I can't just say, this team is struggling because we don't have Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. I mean, you could say, yeah, this team isn't, at a championship level because they don't have a player like that. But this is just not a good football team. I don't think, like, you stick Trevor Lawrence on this team, yeah, it would fix a lot of things because that's just how good he was. If you stick Deshaun Watson on this team, it would fix a lot of things because that's just how good he was. But
right.
The problems would still persist, and that doesn't change how bad and how poor the offensive line is, or the capability of this offense to, just the inability of this offense to function properly at times. That doesn't fix it. So I would probably say I think the assistants leaving has had a pretty big impact. If you go back and I believe Morgan Thomas or somebody made a comparison of Clemson's coaching staff in 2016 versus now, and kind of broke down the years of experience that staff had combined versus this one, and it pales. The amount of experience that Clemson had in 2016, from a coaching staff standpoint, it blows this year out of the water. So I definitely think I would point to that more than not having a generational quarterback. I think that's kind of an overplayed narrative because Clemson won 2 titles when they had a great quarterback, and they don't have any without one, at least under Dabo.
No.
But that's kind of reductive, and there were a lot of really good players when Clemson had a lot of really good players and a lot of really good coaches when Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence were here. That also helped. So
I think there's
they didn't carry Clemson by themselves to those titles. They had help. They had great wide receivers, great running backs, great defense, one of the best defensive minds in the country running it. They had a lot of things going for them. They had continuity on the coaching staff as well, and guys that have been doing it for a really long time. So to say, it's like, oh, we don't have Trevor Lawrence. Like, that's kind of, I think that's kind of reductive and doesn't really address why things are not working right now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely more coaching, less about not having Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence in the locker room anymore. Although those dudes are great, and you mentioned all the things about it, but a coach's job is to develop players. And that means the players that are around that quote unquote generational talent as well. I don't care what the generational talent is. Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson, you could pick either one of them. They're not doing it without the players that were around them. Right. And those players came from coaches developing those other players along with, the really, really good big name players. So, it starts with coaching.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson wasn't out there running 1-11. I mean, he had Mike Williams and Artavis Scott and Ray McLeod and Hunter Renfro. He had Wayne Gallman, Jordan Leggett. Like,
he has some dudes out
defense.
there.
Yeah,
they had some dudes out there.
Some really good players. And honestly, the offensive line. We can talk about the offensive lines under Clemson. They've never been traditionally great, but they were a lot more functional in those years than they are than what Clemson has right now.
I'd take them offensive lines over this one. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I went and watched that. You go back and watch that national championship, that first national championship over Alabama. That Clemson offensive line wasn't amazing, but they functioned a lot better together. They weren't loaded with NFL talent, but they played well enough together. And it just looked like Clemson was playing a completely different sport. Like, you go and watch some of the plays that Clemson made in that game, and you're just like, this doesn't. It's almost unrecognizable. You look at what Clemson is, how Clemson's playing right now, and it's like almost unrecognizable. And it's like, Deshaun Watson was great, but I saw one of the big plays in that first national championship win over Alabama was that screen to Deion Kane where he just made a bunch of people miss. Like that was not Deshaun Watson didn't do that. That was Deion Kane being Deion Kane and being a really, really good player. Like Clemson just had really great players all over. And they were well coached. They had guys, he had blockers down the field that went down and blocked.
You even think about the scheme. Think about the final play that won them the 2016 national championship, right?
Yep.
That quote unquote pick play that they ran, the play that made Hunter Renfrow, more famous than he was before, right? That wasn't necessarily Deshaun Watson, although he rolled out, he made a perfect throw to a wide open Hunter Renfrow. That was scheme. Yeah. He schemed Hunter Renfrow open.
Great play. It was a great play.
They confused the defense. The defense had no idea what was happening. And it was a wide open receiver to win a national championship game. Yeah, they had great players, but they had scheme as well.
Yeah. They had scheme. They had good development and good evaluation. It wasn't like some of those guys were not super highly rated recruits. I mean, Hunter Renfrow was not a 5-star.
He was a walk-on.
Yeah. So like I just stuff like that.
He was a quarterback in high school.
Yeah. He ran the option. He was a good option quarterback though. But
he was.
But still, like it just you had a really good system in place from development. Clemson was pretty fortunate a lot of those years as far as injuries. They didn't really have too many detriment. Really the only one I can think of. I mean, Amari Rogers tearing his ACL, that wasn't great. Mike Williams, breaking that bone in his neck in 2015. But beyond that, you were pretty fortunate a lot of those years from an injury standpoint, because you can point to nutrition and strength and conditioning, but those were things as well. And you haven't had that kind of success in the past few years either. So we could have a whole show dedicated to all of the things that Clemson did from 2015. Well, I mean, even the start of the Dabo Swinney tenure, but especially in those playoff years, 2015, 2020, like that run and all of the things that went into how those teams were successful. It was more than just the quarterbacks. It was a lot more than just the quarterbacks. And you were in a time where, there wasn't the transfer portal. There wasn't NIL. Those things were not the reality of college football, during those years. And so teams, your competition was on the same playing field as you were, more or less. Obviously, their program, there's differences, between programs, obviously, and there's a reason why certain programs are more successful than others. But largely, you were on the same playing field, and everybody was doing the same things that you were doing. And there were no other external resources that Clemson didn't have access to that others did. But now, with the transfer portal, especially, you have your entire competition. Everybody you play is using the transfer portal, and you decide not to. Besides the Paul Tysons and the Hunter Johnsons of the world, like that that doesn't really count. You elect to rely on what you bring in, hope that you hit on those guys, and hope they develop into impact players. And in years where you don't have guys ready to play, you're relying on that inexperience. While other teams, when they have those deficiencies, they're going out and getting a Keon Coleman, just for an example, and that's the difference.
That is the difference.
It's more than that, but that makes a big difference. And you're actively fighting with one hand tied behind your back because of it. And so there's a lot of things that go into that for sure.
Yeah, you definitely summed that up really well. We got another super chat in here, Jordan.
Oh, sweet. Let me hit that. Steel Gamble, thank you so much for the $10. Always been a really good supporter of the show, so thank you, man. Dabo seems to have lost this team. I anticipated a possibility of losing a few this year with it being Riley's first year. But damn, this got awful real fast. Yeah. I don't.
Yes, it did.
Most of us did not think that this is where Clemson would be through 8 games.
No.
And obviously there were people that were more skeptical than others. And but I don't think anybody expected Clemson to be 500.
The most critical of people of Clemson heading into the season didn't see Clemson 4-4 through 8 games this season. I don't care what they tell you. They didn't see that coming. No one saw that coming. And there's plenty of skeptics out there about Clemson football, and especially heading into the season, and the couple seasons of regression that we had on offense, in particular. Nobody saw us at 4-4 through 8 games. At least I don't think so. Maybe there's one genius out there that saw it coming. Maybe he's got a time machine or something, but I don't think anybody saw Clemson being this bad this year, specifically on offense.
Yeah. I expected growing pains, but I did not expect it to be worse than last year.
I didn't.
And they're worse. They're worse than last year by a considerable margin at this point. And that's
it's not really close.
Did not expect to be saying that. But once again, thank you, Steel Gamble, for the $10. I did want to address this. I lost the comment. Oh, here it is. Dabo's not that good. His record without Brent Venables reflects that. I think that this is kind of a narrative that I just can't really, get behind. Doesn't really make any sense given the context of how this team has lost games. You think that not having Brent Venables is the reason why Clemson has lost the games they have this year? I think the defense has been the problem in those losses. Unless Brent Venables is calling offensive plays too.
What would Brent Venables be doing about this offense right now? I'm just confused. And people out there saying this, don't get it wrong. Is Brent Venables a way better defensive coordinator than Wes Goodwin? Yeah. Would I rather have Brent Venables at defensive coordinator right now than Wes Goodwin? Yes. Would this team be winning games because Brent Venables would be the defensive coordinator? No, I don't think so.
No.
What's the defense coordinator supposed to do when the offense is literally spotting the other team 14 points a game? What is the defense supposed to do about that outside of creating their own pick sixes and their own points on defense? But you can't bank on that consistently. Brent Venables is not an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He might be the best defensive coordinator in the country. There's an argument to be made there probably, but he's not going to solve any of Clemson's issues on offense.
No. And, beyond that, I think it's, the revisionist history. We can talk about, Clemson's run, but I don't doubt that Dabo, Dabo was a really good coach in those years, and he was the reason why Clemson had the success that they had in those years, bar none. That full stop. Dabo gets the credit for the success that Clemson has had, the last decade. Now, I think where people there's nuance here, but people like to, push narratives. But is Dabo a good coach for Clemson right now in this time, in this time of college football, in this era of college football with the transfer portal and NIL and all of that? Not right now. No. I think he could change.
Sure, he could.
I think that could, and if he does start utilizing those things, and he does, make those kind of program infrastructure changes, then I think he could certainly earn that credit back. But the bottom of the line is, if we want to talk about what Dabo has accomplished, he is responsible for every bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's just he was a great coach in those years, and for the time that Clemson, for that time in college football, he was a great coach. In this era of college football, not so much, and that's been the case. This isn't like something unique to Dabo. A lot of coaches, the game, they were really, really great coaches, and but they coached for a really long time. Changes in the game happen, and they don't really adapt, and the game kind of passes them by. Like that stuff does happen, but it doesn't mean that those coaches all of a sudden weren't good coaches before. It's just that they were not willing, or they were unable to adapt to changes in the sport, and they were no longer a great coach for that time period. And for that time period, so we can say, we can have that talk about, is Dabo a good coach for Clemson right now? No, but he absolutely is a great coach and first ballot Hall of Famer, and he was a great coach in those years, where Clemson was winning a lot of football games. So I don't think we can.
And he can still make the changes necessary to put this program back at the top of college football. That's within his authority to do. He has to choose to make some tough decisions. He's probably going to have to be, change some philosophies that he has on how he runs the program. But, let's not pretend like he can't do it.
Right.
He hasn't to this point. He hasn't exercised the transfer portal to this point, but that doesn't mean that he can't or that he won't. And I think Dabo knows the things that are wrong with this team, and I'm going to believe that he has the best interest of this program in mind. He built it. I don't think he's looking to disappear into, a mid to lower level ACC team. I don't think that's who Dabo wants Clemson to be. So I would assume that he's going to make some changes this offseason. And if he doesn't, then okay, maybe we can revisit this conversation in the summer. But as of right now, I choose to believe that he's going to pivot, that he's going to make some changes when it comes to this coaching staff, when it comes to things that he is currently doing.
Yeah, and it's not 7-1 or 6-6. Like I said, I'd take BV over Dabo. I mean, you're perfectly valid in saying that, but that's not what you said. And you said Dabo is not good without Brent Venables. When
that's easy to say when Oklahoma's sitting at 7-1 right now. What was everybody saying about Brent Venables last year?
Right,
when they were getting blown off the field by Texas.
Well, and beyond
off the field by multiple teams. Nobody was sitting here saying Brent Venables is this great head coach last year. Now that he's put together a pretty decent season, now suddenly he's better than Dabo Swinney. Come on, man!
And we can have the conversation about who you'd rather have right now for this program. I mean, that's fine. If you rather have Brent Venables, I think that's today, right now, and not obviously you can't transfer. You can't keep the success that you had with Dabo and just credit that to Brent Venables. You have to obviously we're talking about here and now, but if you want to do, I just don't want to do the revisionist history stuff. Like I don't want to say, man, it's like Dabo was only great because of Brent Venables. Dabo was only great because of this. Dabo was only great because of that. Like I'm not interested in that conversation because it's reductive and it doesn't for those that, especially coming from fans that did not follow like opposing teams fans that didn't follow the program and don't know the ins and outs of how Clemson was so successful in those years. I'm not interested in that conversation. Dabo was absolutely a great coach, and I'll stand on that. I'm just not a fan of the revisionist history. Jim with the $10. Thanks, man. He says, hang in there, Clemson folks. Clemson has a great program for their players and the fans, except for the best program in Tallahassee Florida. I am Jim, FSU 1981 grad, Anderson, South Carolina. Shout out to
Hey,
Anderson.
shout out to you, man.
So
Living in the upstate of South Carolina.
You are certainly around a lot of Clemson folks. So cheers to you, brother. And I always appreciate opposing fans getting in, and especially with the super chat. So thanks.
I don't know about the best program, Jim, but we can talk about it now.
Yeah, we could have that. We could have that conversation. But
thanks for the super chat, man.
They continue to roll. Got a pretty impressive win over Wake Forest.
Jim's probably sick of Clemson fans. He's been living around them for years now.
Yeah,
like all these dang Clemson fans, especially in Anderson, South Carolina.
Yeah,
Jesus, all over the place.
Right in the heart of
right in the heart of where Tiger fans
Clemson
are.
country. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We ended up going longer than 5 to 10 minutes on the chat.
A little bit.
I think that's a good place to close it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So let's go ahead and close the show out. Thank you. A last shout out to all the people that sent in a super chat today: Drew G, JT Brown, Steele Gamble, and Jim. Thank you to all 4 of you guys that supported the show in that way. We really do appreciate it. All the people in the chat right now, we got 103 people. Please go ahead and hit that like button for us. Also, me and Jordan do a live video every week, Thursday, 7 p.m., right here on the Voice of College Football, breaking down the week ahead, as well as talking a little bit about the previous week and just our final thoughts on that. So thank you, everybody who showed up in here, whether you're a Clemson fan, a Knowles fan, a North Carolina State fan, whether you were just in here to laugh at us. It's all good. It's all love. It's a part of college football. Trash talk comes with it. We welcome it all. So thank you, everybody who showed up today. We will see you guys Thursday, 7 p.m. I hope all of you guys show up. But until then, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.